Alright guys, so I got some interesting news for you this video. The last video we talked about some of the best processors out there comparing Intel versus the AMD Pile driver. So anyway, let's talk about these processors that I have for you today and what we have to do. Now, one of these processors is still in my older Alienware X51 model, and it runs great, and honestly it did perform better than I thought in these tests. But anyway, let's talk about this. This is all these tests are done with the GTX 660 Superclock edition. So let me tell you the processors that this test was done on. So we used the i3 3220, which is a 3.3 gigahertz dual core 4-thread processor. And the second processor we used was the i5 3570 quad-core processor, which runs at approximately 3.4 gigahertz with a 3.8 gigahertz turbo boost. Then we ran also on the third processor was the i7 3770K, which runs at about 3.4 gigahertz with about a 3.9 gigahertz turbo boost. Then we also ran on two AMD processors, which is very good and very good for its price. I'll talk about the prices in a minute. So we ran these tests on the AMD FX 6100, which is a 6-core processor, which runs at about 3.3 gigahertz. Then we also ran the test on the 8350, the AMD FX 8350 Pile driver, which is a 8-core processor, which runs at about about 4.0 gigahertz to 4.2 gigahertz turbo boost. So with these processors, the big test was run out against Battlefield 3. Everybody says Battlefield 3 is a very demanding game. So I just recently bought Battlefield 3. I know it is almost 3 years old, but it is still a very beautiful game. The graphics are amazing, and it does have a lot to process and render. So let's talk about this. On the i3, which this was really impressive, I'm gonna tell you, the i3, the i5, the i7, the AMD FX 6100, and the AMD 8350. This is something big, guys. This is something big I'm about to tell you. They all ran the same. There was about a 3 to 5 frame per second difference. That's all. There was not a huge difference against these 5 processors. Because games right now are not as demanding as people think. Most of them use 2 cores, even though they might recommend 4 cores. Most of them, are just reaching that 4-core limit, even with these next-gen graphic games coming out. So, with that said, let's talk about a few prices, shall we? The i3 3220 comes in about $130, where the i5 comes in about $214. The i7, on the other hand, kind of comes in around the $330 point, where the AMD 6100 comes in at $119, and the AMD 8350 comes in about $200. Can be found on Amazon for like $180. So anyway, let's talk about this. So this is the big thing. What is going to be in your next build? What are you going to have in your next computer? What are you going to do? What are you going to buy? Is it worth spending $330 for the Intel i7? Are you really going to use all that power? Now, if you're just gaming, I'm going to say no, you're not going to use all that power. But the thing I would recommend is, since the i3 did so well, and comparing it to the AMD FX 6100 for nearly the same price, where the AMD is cheaper, has more cores, and just is altogether, of course it has more cores, so it's going to last you longer. I definitely will recommend you to get the AMD FX 6100 simply because it's going to last you longer, and it performed the same as the i3, the i5, and the i7, and the 8350 in Battlefield 3 with a GTX 660 superclocked. So with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this information. Tell me, guys, with this new information, what are you going to be purchasing for your next computer build or for your next upgrade? Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, you know what to do. Oh, by the way, guys, the frame rates averaged between 53 to like 75 on average. This was all ran on Ultra in 1080p. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. It was all ran on Ultra settings in 1080p. So they all performed great. 1080p, i3, i5, i7, 6100, and 8350. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know what to do. Hit that like button. Subscribe because I'm going to bring you some more great videos later on. Anyway, guys, you know what to do.